After my personal struggle with food left me sick and suicidal, I was struck with the realization that food alone can't fix us. So I set out to discover what could, and what I found changed everything. After coaching thousands of clients and interviewing the world's leading experts, I realized it was time to start a bigger conversation. What are you really hungry for?
It's great.
Ooh, good one.
What am I really hungry for?
I love that question.
It's time to discover what you're really hungry for. This episode is brought to you by the Institute of Transformational Nutrition. ITN offers the first and only personalized nutrition certification program that's backed by science and proven to get clients actual results and coaches actual income. If you're ready to be proud of what you do, feel like you matter, make a difference in someone's life, and actually get paid for it, then visit transformationalnutrition.com to take your first class toward your certification for free. When Michael Jordan didn't make his high school basketball team, he went home and cried. He was devastated, angry, and embarrassed. But instead of giving up or quitting, he turned his reality around and doubled down on his effort. He turned his difficulty, his failure, as some might say, into an opportunity. Instead of quitting basketball and just giving up on his dream, he practiced more. He once said, "Whenever I was working out and got tired and figured I ought to stop, I'd close my eyes and see that list in the locker room without my name on it. That usually got me going again." He turned his challenge into an opportunity. And as you know, it turned into the opportunity of a lifetime. He became one of the best basketball players of all time. Challenges like this can come in any shape or size. Losing a job, getting a life-changing diagnosis, or even going through a breakup. They all feel like the end of the world, but they don't have to. It's only when we buy into that belief that it becomes our destiny. But you don't have to give your power away like that, because ultimately you create your world based on your beliefs and your willingness to turn challenges into opportunities. Just think, if Michael Jordan had believed his high school basketball coach, he would have quit playing, but he didn't. Instead, he decided what his destiny would be, and he went after it. And you can do this too. When your heart gets broken, don't buy into the thought that you're not worthy of love, that you'll never fall in love again, or that you're not an amazing person. Believe in yourself and in the quality of your being, and understand that this person left your life for a reason, to open up the opportunity for the right one to step in. When you get a life-challenging diagnosis, don't just believe the doctors, get a second opinion. Do research, do whatever it takes to maintain belief in your ability to be healthy and vibrant. See that this diagnosis may be a wake-up call to take better care of some areas of your health and well-being. See it as an opportunity. When you lose your job, don't just pack up your self-esteem and decide that no one else is ever going to hire you ever again. Recognize that this job may not have been right for you, and losing it opens up the opportunity for you to pursue your passion, the job of your dreams. So you have two choices when you experience challenges in your life. You can throw up your hands and say, "Oh well, guess I can't do anything about it. I just have to accept what is." Or you can look deeper into the experience and recognize that there is always opportunity in everything that happens. Every challenge is simply an opportunity waiting for you to take advantage of it. My guest today, Leslie Harrington, is a graduate of the Institute of Transformational Nutrition and a certified transformational nutrition coach. She specializes in working with people who are pre-diabetic. She believes that diabetes isn't your destiny. Leslie helps people turn challenges into opportunities, and she's here today to help you do the same, no matter what your challenge might be. Leslie, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. One of the things that I love so much that you talk about is your diagnosis isn't your destiny. And I know that you work with people who are pre-diabetic. And a lot of times, we're not all diagnosed with a medical condition, but we do have things that happen to us that are challenging, to put it mildly. And what I want to talk to you about today, because you're so good at this, is how we take those challenges and turn them into opportunities. So let's first talk about you. Tell me a little bit about why you woke up one morning and decided to do this work.
I grew up pretty much in a normal family with a mother who all of my friends would like to call mom because she was that great. But also with a father who was a professor. So I was very into education by default. And I learned to love research and learned to love reading and learning anything I possibly could. And it kind of translated as I grew into an adult. But one of the most powerful things that happened to me before I was 18 is I experienced significant loss. And I think that was the time in my life that I really established that life does go on because it has to. And I think, when we don't want it to, or we think that it's over because, so much has happened or whatever trauma you experience, you realize that you have to wake up the next day and you have to put one foot forward and keep going. And I think that's where I got my resilience from. It's just kind of when I was younger, going through some of that loss. So 7 years ago when I was drugged, I was on a vacation with friends in the Keys, and someone put something in my drink that caused damage to my body. So my autonomic nervous system, which basically maintains your blood pressure, your heart rate, your body temperature, the things that you would normally just happen automatically for people, my body just stopped doing normally. I had to start to do it manually. And so I would say from that day, my life was like it was before, and then it became like it was moving forward. So it was pretty life-changing. And, in the first 6 months after it happened, I wasn't told what was wrong. I went to, ridiculous amount of doctors, and when they were still trying to figure out what was happening. But in that 6 months, I had one doctor that told me that I was probably just out of shape. So
there's always that one doctor, isn't there? It's just your workout.
Exactly. And looking back, I actually am very grateful for that, because part of my symptoms were that I was dizzy all the time. I was nauseous. My heart would race very, very fast. I was an avid equestrian, and riding a horse, I would get like over 180 beats per minute, which is pretty severe for just riding a horse, right? Yeah. So the things that I would normally do on a daily basis just became very difficult for me. Walking down the hall, talking on the phone. I was in a career where I traveled for work. So, anything that would cause dehydration in my body, or it was a constant feeling of having to be very calculated in what I ate and what I put in my body. And when my doctor told me that, I thought, gosh, if this is what it feels like to be out of shape, I don't want to be out of shape. So I did what most out of shape people would do and joined a gym. And in that 6 months, I struggled a lot trying to overcome the breathing and figuring out how to, I'd wake up in the morning and I could lift my hands over my head and I could tell how my day would go simply by the amount of dizziness I would feel. I'd be like, and I used to call the walls like my wall crutches. So like people would be like, how you feel? Oh, well, I'm not using the crutches today. So I could usually gauge how my day would go. And in that 6 months, I lost 30 pounds in this process I started to really do better things for my body and eat clean. And I recognized that exercise made me feel better because it got my blood flowing and things like that. And had the doctor not told me that, I would look back and say that I don't know, knowing what I know about my condition today, I don't know that I would have exercised. I would have been too scared. And I think that was a blessing in disguise, because it made me kind of do the thing that is one of the most difficult for people with the condition that I ended up getting diagnosed with ultimately. So this condition was called POTS, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. And when I got diagnosed, I almost shifted my thinking, and I started to really, I was very calculated. I studied it. I was like, what's happening in my body? And I became like overly in tune with everything that was happening in my body. And I was told from day one that I would be on medication for the rest of my life. So the doctors wanted to help me with my breathing, so they gave me medicine to slow my heart down, and then they gave me medicine to bring my blood pressure up, and they gave me stuff for my nausea. And so I was continually taking different medications to basically manage getting through my days. And, as I evolved through this, I lost friends, I changed my whole lifestyle. I was very isolated. And I essentially finally just started to realize what was happening. I'm like, I am healing myself. I'm doing all these great things for my body. I'm like, why do I have to be on these medications? And I don't think I realized until my mom was diagnosed with cancer how much control I had, because she was diagnosed and we did everything they told us to do. It was like step-by-step traditional medical model. And
it's funny that you say that you didn't realize the amount of control you had until your mom was diagnosed with cancer, because typically what happens is, my mom also was diagnosed with cancer, and for me, I didn't feel in control. I didn't feel that there was hope. I didn't feel like there was really an option. So why do you say that?
When I mean in control of my own self. And I think with cancer, I felt like I felt like she didn't have a choice, and I felt like I did. So
wow.
It made me, like, when I would feel pain or feel dizzy or whatever, I'm like, you don't know pain. You don't know, like, what, she was experiencing. And so that was very hard.
Perspective.
Yeah. So it made me, I guess, kind of put in perspective where what I was thinking was such a tragic thing to live with what she was living with. And then I just, I stopped focusing on it.
Right.
I was focusing so much on my mom and getting her better and going through that process with her, that when it was all said and done, and unfortunately she passed, I didn't want that to be my story anymore. I was done with being the girl with POTS, or being the girl that couldn't have a drink with my friends, or couldn't, there are a lot of perceived limitations I had put on myself in that process. So that was really the day that I decided to change my story, and I went off of my medications cold turkey.
Wow. Which we don't recommend people try at home.
Yeah.
Just for the record.
I don't recommend. I definitely, what had happened though is my body had changed. And to say that you're going to be on something for the rest of your life when things change, not only in your life, as far, you deal with people with depression, and they're, maybe things change and maybe they're not necessarily reliant on that medication anymore, and I, took a little bit of a chance, and I decided to go through that process, and I survived the transition, and I'm thriving, without it. And I don't call myself that anymore. I'm very cautious of using the word I have. I try to keep it separate from me now.
Yeah.
The only thing that I find value about it today is that it taught me a lot about something happening for you versus to you. And
talk about that, because I think that so often when things happen that are challenging for us, and you mentioned realizing that you had this loss at a young age, and realizing that life goes on. I had a very similar experience. I had, when I was in high school, 3 of my friends were killed in a car accident, and I remember we went to the funeral home, and we came out, and across the street they were playing a high school football game, and there was traffic and people, and it was a wake-up call for me, because I was so young and hadn't experienced that kind of loss before. And I remember my dad was there, and I was just saying, Daddy, like, how can these people just do this? Don't they understand what's happening? And I'll never forget, he said to me, just, life goes on. Life goes on.
Yeah.
And so I think that when we hit rock bottom, like, I didn't see that as happening for me at the time. It was very much happening to me. And I feel like we think that, like, oh, this crazy thing happened to me. You're not going to believe this.
Yeah.
How do you get beyond that? And instead of thinking, oh, this happened to me, how do you put yourself in the frame of mind, oh, this is happening for me?
I think with my situation, a lot of it had to do with the transition from my mom. And I always, it was really hard for me to read about the population that deals with this. It's a lot to do, a lot of adolescents, a lot of kids have really hard time. They pass out a lot. Like there's people that are fully debilitated. And I felt like I was such a successful at managing my symptoms. And I felt like I was living such a better lifestyle than some of the other people. So I knew that I was in a good place. And I really attribute that to the exercise and the fact that I got through. I always pictured like a speed bump. And it was like, if I was on this side of the speed bump, I was always okay. But if I kind of got slow and I let it catch up to me, kind of like a wave, then that was when I would kind of have my setbacks and my flare-ups. And I just wanted to tell people, like, if you stay up here, you know, if you can just get there, you have to get over the bump to get there. But if you stay there, then that's where you can kind of keep going.
How do we get over the bump? Because I think that's the hard part.
Focusing on what makes you feel good. So if you're going through your days and you're struggling and you have little things that you know makes you feel good, chase them. I mean, for me, I had to chase after that feeling of, okay, I can make myself have some energy today by going for a walk. Or I had the option of when I wake up in the morning, it's, do you want to feel like this today or do you want to feel like this today? And that's how I make my decisions. So for me, it was a matter of, I know I'm going to feel a certain way. So the result is almost like a direct impact. It's like Pinocchio. You tell a lie, you're going to get the feeling right away. For me, that was everything I did. So I started to tie my actions to my outcomes. And then also focusing on what you have and not what you don't have. So for me, I was so grateful that I wasn't hurt when I got drugged. I mean, I could have been, raped or had something horrible happen. That would have been a whole nother layer of the devastation. And I'm grateful that, I am one of the people that are able to function through this process. And they didn't get, when I first got diagnosed, I wouldn't get off the couch. I was afraid to stand up because literally I'd stand up and my heart would go up 30 points without moving. So it was scary. So, I tried to focus on the things that I had control of, and I went after those.
I love that. Do you for people maybe who are watching and maybe they say, that's just a distraction and it doesn't help me, or it helps for this amount of time, but then I'm just right back to where I am. I'm not really turning this challenge into an opportunity. Is that what we're doing? Are we really just distracting ourselves? Or does it come down to the power of choice? As you said, is it about making the conscious choice to feel differently, to act differently, to choose differently, and then following through so that you're not just distracting yourself, but you're choosing a different way of life?
Exactly. It's a conscious choice. It's just like after someone passes and you have the option of moving on. I mean, you can sit in that struggle as long as you allow yourself to. And it could take a day, it could take a week, it could take a year. And you have the choice as to how long that's going to take. And when you get up that next day, is that going to be the day? Like, you have to, at some point, recognize that you own that choice. It belongs to you. You are not stuck in that particular position that you're in. And I don't discourage honoring the moment that you're in it, because it does stink. And it is something that maybe for a moment, you know what, this did happen. But it happened for me. And look for the opportunity in why it happened. So, I mean, for instance, I fell walking my dog because she, barked at another dog and literally knocked me down. And it caused like an injury that I couldn't run for like a month, and I was like, there's a reason that my body's telling me this. Like, there's something telling me that I need to slow down. And it was very accurate for that time and where I was in my life. And I was going to travel for work that full next month. And I knew that one of the hard things for me is the fine line with exercise is I need it to move and to get my blood moving, but I have to be careful how hard I do it because it can cause a whole nother level of stress. But so when that happened, you have to look at it and be like, what is this trying to teach me? What am I supposed to learn from this? And how can I apply it to other things in my life?
Yeah. It's interesting. You talked about not diminishing the struggle, right? When we're making this very conscious choice, which I believe is so powerful. And I believe it's disempowering when you receive a diagnosis, whether it's you don't work here anymore or you have diabetes, whatever that case is. I feel like it's very disempowering to just accept that.
Yeah.
I feel like it's very empowering to have that power of choice. And yet, I do feel like what you said is so true. It's sometimes, I know for me at least, I need to struggle for a minute. I need to feel that, because what you just said, there's a bigger message. There's a reason this is happening, and we need to know what that is. And so for me, when I do appreciate the struggle, or I don't diminish it and I just sit with it, even though it's not fun, those messages come through for me. So I love that you said that. And I love that it doesn't have to be like, okay, well, I'm just going to choose to be happy and I'm not going to feel sad or I'm not going to feel upset or angry. Like, no, honor that, honor those feelings, have that struggle, know that challenge, but then find the wisdom within it.
Yeah, I know that every day is going to be different. And it's really about trying to find the most out of each day, because there's not setbacks. Because you're not going to just charge forward and, power on every single day.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah.
Because you know what I think happens is, and you can tell me if you disagree, but I feel like we think, yes, we're making this choice, we're going to do this, and then we fail. Right? And we let ourselves down, and we're very critical of ourselves, right? We're very hard on ourselves. But thank you for giving us permission for that to be okay.
Yeah.
Because that's normal, right? And isn't that part of the process?
Yeah, and I think if you criticize yourself so much, and then you're ultimately setting yourself up for failure.
Yes.
Because you can only take so much without giving yourself back, the struggle, and giving yourself back the validation that what you're feeling is real. And you get enough of that with the diagnosis as it is from your outside people, especially when you look normal on the outside and you're struggling with these things on the inside. So you need validation from not only yourself and maybe other people, and then I can move on from this now, or move through this now. The only way out is through. That's one of my favorite sayings.
Yeah. So. And you're better because of it, and you're stronger because of it. And I believe that everything that's happening for you in this moment is happening for you, as you've already said. And I also believe it's preparing you for what to come. It's making you stronger so that you can handle that next thing down the road. I think that we like to pretend once we get through this challenge that it's going to be great. Yeah. And of course, life isn't like that. But we do get better, and we do get stronger, and we do become more aware, which is why I love what you do so much, is just reiterating that message to people and encouraging that it's a practice, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think especially with the prediabetes piece, looking fine on the outside. And when I was told that I had prediabetes, I was just like, really? Like, seriously? Yeah. And I think because that was something that I was like, I need to understand this, and I need to understand why, and I need to understand how I control it. And the more I would study and learn about it, is the more I saw how statistically I had a very short period of time to make a change in whatever I was doing, to not become like, my dad, type 2 diabetes and things like that. So I really recognize that there's so many people out there that just don't have the insight.
Right. I know I talk to a lot of people, and I'm always mining their wisdom. I just want those nuggets that they have. And oftentimes people will say, well, this one thing keeps me on track. It keeps me grounded. It keeps me aware, keeps me conscious, and it could be meditation. It could be journaling. Is there one thing or more than one thing that you do so that you continue to have this mindset of, if there's a challenge, it's really just an opportunity for me?
Yeah, I think that goes back to the gratitude. I think it's very hard to have gratitude and feel depressed at the same time, if at all.
Yeah.
And so,
I love that.
When I'm feeling sorry for myself, all I have to do is really think about something that's really great in my life, and it kind of takes everything else and shifts it out. So I think it's about focusing on the positive and the good things that you have, because it makes the negative seem less significant. Again, not to say that it doesn't exist, but if you're focusing on the right things and focus on what you have versus what you don't have. that gets me through.
I love that. I love gratitude. Yeah. Leslie, thank you so much for what you do. It's truly an honor to know you and to have this conversation, and just for you to be that light in the world that so many of us need at those difficult struggles in our lives. We need your wisdom and your guidance. So thank you for being that, and thank you for being here with us today. There's one question that I ask every guest that comes on this show, and I know you know what it is. Leslie, what are you really hungry for?
Okay, so I am hungry for love without fear. Without fear of the outcome.
Yes.
Yeah.
You got me right in the gut, girl.
I know. If I elaborate.
Yeah. Oh, I just felt it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a tough one.
And a beautiful challenge, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Turn that into an opportunity.
Yeah. Well,
Thank you for being here.
thank you.
This week is all about turning challenges into opportunity. We discussed how you can view any hardship from the perspective of learning and growth. So I invite you to choose one of Leslie's tips that she discussed during our show and start implementing it in your life today. What one step can you take today to create the reality you want, not the one you feel like you're destined for? Through recognizing that challenges are just opportunities waiting for you to take advantage of. As always, the conversation continues at cynthiapasquella.com. Head on over and leave a comment below this video telling me the one thing that you will do to start turning challenge into opportunity. Did you like this video? If so, please subscribe and then share it with your friends. And if you want to hear more from me, including things that I only share in email, then head on over to cynthiapasquella.com and sign up for my email newsletter so you can become a part of this beautiful community of women who are discovering what they're really hungry for. On next week's episode of What You're Really Hungry For.
I went in with just like, so like, I was like, okay, if we're going to do this, let's do this. I bought cards for the surgeons. I gave them gemstones. I thought this is going to be a sacred process.
Wow.
And then,
It didn't go so well?
well,
The Institute of Transformational Nutrition offers the first and only personalized nutrition certification program that's backed by science and proven to get clients actual results and coaches actual income. If you're ready to be proud of what you do, feel like you matter, make a difference in someone's life, and actually get paid for it, then visit transformationalnutrition.com to take your first class toward your certification for free.